Hey everyone, good afternoon, or good evening actually. To be honest, it should be 8 o'clock in Europe. Um, we'll be starting really shortly the live with Philipp Weishaupt. I'm just gonna wait for him to join in, and we will start it really soon. So I'll just send a message to Domenica. Oh god, let's go. Just give it a little time so that Philip can join us, and we'll be starting. Remind you all that tonight at 8 p.m. here in Brazil, we will have Rodrigo Chaves Nunes. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. in Brazil, we'll have Philipp Weishaupt. And on Sunday, we'll have Jan Simmons also with us. Okay, so it should be okay. Hello.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Good, thank you, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm calling from the car.
It's no,
I just didn't make it quite in time home, as
no,
usual.
it should be
So,
right. How far are you from home?
actually, we are on the way to my wife's parents' 70th birthday,
Okay.
and we had a lot of traffic actually. Even though through Corona times the streets are normally free, but we hit traffic, so we are still an hour away.
Okay, then. So
Uh,
let's give it a try then.
all right.
Thank you very much for accepting the invitation. It's a pleasure to have you with me.
Thank you for thinking of me then at that time.
It's all right. Philip, first question, I believe it's, well, where everything started. So where, how, and why did you start writing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't I didn't have much chance to do anything else. I wasn't really good in school.
Okay.
Um, I'm actually born and grown up at the farm from my parents. Our house is basically in the middle of around 100 horses, and I always liked it. Basically, I grown up with them, and I started to ride really early. Oops.
Yep. All right.
I started to ride really early when I was like 7, 8 years old, and yeah, I always wanted to be a good show jumper, and always wanted to ride and jump. Always when I was on the horse, I want to jump, and I actually asked the question a couple of times to myself, what would I have been without horses? And I haven't really figured out the answer yet.
Okay. No. At least you're really good at what you do, so you don't have to worry too much about what would you do if you didn't have the horses.
Yeah.
Um, well, fantastic. But did your family had any horse riders in it?
Yes, actually, my whole family is riding. My sister and my mother rode just up to maybe 120, 130.
Okay.
And my younger brother, Maximilian, he is about 29 years old. He's riding also international, and he's doing basically our home stable in south of Germany, close to Munich. His job is at my parents' place, and he brings along the younger horses. Our job at home is to basically buy 2, 3, 4 year olds, build them up to a good level, and then try to sell them again. That's our business at home for my parents. And my brother and my father are working at the place in Munich.
Very good.
And
Well,
my dad is old now, but he was also a good national rider.
very good. Well, so I believe you start with ponies, right?
Not really, to be honest. I had a pony. We got into a deal one day, but we sold it pretty soon again. Never really jumped ponies. Maybe some local shows up to 1 meter, but my dad always wanted me to get on the real horses because we had them anyway.
Yep.
I never really did the pony classes.
Very good. And when did you start jumping for the national team of German?
Um, my first Nations Cup was when I was a junior, of course, as a junior Nations Cup. I was like 13, 14 years old. And my first senior Nations Cup I did with the age of 19.
Okay, pretty young.
Pretty young, yeah. And actually, I was lucky because we won directly the first Nations Cup. That was good.
Okay, I believe that's
Czech Republic. That was good.
very good. When did you? Of course, you just said that you were not really good at school, but when was the decision made that you wanted to become a professional rider for real?
Basically the moment I could sort of. School was, I was okay, but I always looked at. I only did at school what I really that I didn't have to do the year again. I just did as much as I need, and I spent the most of the time in the stable and at the shows. So I have never done any extra work, and I just tried to get out of school as early as possible. And and then by the age of 17, I was done with the school.
Yep.
And then my dad had at that time still having a really good contact to Ludger, because at that time Ludger was also in the south of Germany when he worked for Mr. Moxel in Buchloe. And he always said to my dad, to Ludger, one day my son is old enough, I'm going to send him to you. And Ludger never really thought it's going to happen and always said, yeah, no problem. And by the age when I was out of school, he said, listen, now it's time. He's out of school. I'm going to send him to you. And he was like, okay. And he put me in the car and drove me to Ludger. And we agreed
Drop you off
about
there.
drop me off there. And we agreed first about being there for maybe 3 to 6 months. And now it's a little tiny bit longer. It's almost 18 years or something like this.
Fantastic.
I wanted to learn how to ride well, and after 3 months, 6 months, I figured out that 3 or 6 months is not enough, and now 18 years later, I'm still there.
It's still not enough, right?
No, it's never enough.
What do you believe was the biggest difference or the first real thing you learned once you got to Ludger?
Oh, yeah. 1,000 things. What was different before? I didn't think about it. I just got on the horse. I didn't think about the management. I didn't think about walking the course. I kept it really simple. I believe I was good on like a good natural feeling. And I made it just out of feel. Had kind of blood horses, which were a little bit wild, but always went to the jump. And then at Ludger's, the horses, you needed a lot of leg because they were broken different, and they needed a lot of leg, and that was probably the biggest difference. They didn't just run into the jump and I had to just look for a distance. They were waiting for my commands to do, and that was quite a different riding. But it's interesting there. It's so much different than our normal little local shows. What we did before is a different league, but I'm happy I did the step.
Very good. I asked the other day to Marco Kutscher, that actually also worked at Ludger, and how was Ludger as a boss? How is Ludger as a boss, to be honest?
He's good. He let me do what I want. He can be tough. If something goes wrong and you've done something not good, and you could have probably done it different with a better plan or better management, he can get angry with you, which is absolutely okay. But in general, he's very fair. He also knows how the sport is, how it goes. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. And now after such a long time, he let me do basically my job. I know what I have to do. And it's not like I have to explain him every step I'm doing. I can basically do what I want as long as the result are there. But on the other side, if you see how many good riders coming out of that stable with Hendrik, Christian Kuckuck, Marco Kutscher, there have been a lot of the Audi Quattro team with Christian Ahlmann started there. If you see how many good riders been going through his system, I think he's doing something definitely better than most of the other trainers or stables.
Absolutely. Well, of course, you arrived at Ludge, and it was not straight away they got 5-star Grand Prix horses to jump. How was the beginning, and when was the first time that Ludge actually gave you the chance to jump 5-star Grand Prix?
Yeah, I mean, first I came, like I said, with 18 or 17 or 18 years, and it was really tough for me in the beginning because I came as a, let's call it, the champion from south of Germany. I was really successful, juniors, young riders. I won basically everything you can win at that age. And then I came there and I rode for the first 2 years, basically the 4-year-olds and sometimes the 5-year-olds, and I wasn't really good in it. And I went through a tough time. And obviously my friends said, yeah, why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? You could be the king of south of Germany. But I knew I'm on the right track. But it was very tough in the beginning. I had not good results at all in the beginning, and because my whole riding changed and the whole system was different, and it was a really tough time. But I knew it was the right way. Still, I knew I need to do that if I want to be successful one day in a bigger level, and I want to need to learn the management, and I have to learn the proper dressage. And it didn't really matter if the horse were good or bad. You can learn that from any horse. You can, even a normal horse, you can make better, or you can ride better dressage, and you can have a better program. You will have better results with that horse. So I really was working hard in the beginning, and then Ludger saw that I don't really give up, and then step by step I got my first horse. It was called Figaro's Boy. He was basically already retired. He was already for a year in the field. It was one of Ludger's Grand Prix horse, and he told me, "Yeah, you know what? You can try to ride this one." And that was basically my first horse. I started 3 months to get him in shape again, and it was my first better horse to jump a bit bigger. And from then on, it went sometimes better, sometimes worse. I had a lot of good moments, but of course the sport brings you also into a lot of bad moments.
Very good. What was up until now maybe the highlight of your career?
Yeah, I think I have two highlights in my career, outstanding from everything else what I reached, and that was Aachen and Calgary. Of course, Aachen was something very unbelievable in Germany, the best show in the world, in my opinion. To win there, it came a little bit out of the blue for me. I knew I have a really, really good horse, but nobody really. That was Aachen, yeah.
Yep.
I have the red jacket on, so it must have been the Nations Cup or something. He was double clear in the Nations Cup too. Um, I know I have an extra special horse with LB Conwell, and I had a perfect setup the summer series in Spruce Meadows. It made it perfect warm up for him for the Aachen Grand Prix. But I came actually I got to the show. I almost couldn't jump at the show because the flight from Calgary was delayed. So I missed the vet check.
Okay.
And Aachen is not basically the show you do that. But they were really kind, and they made me. I could have the trot up a couple hours later. And so the whole thing, basically, we were late there, and everything was a little bit not so well organized there in the beginning of the week. So I actually didn't qualify. I was first out. So I didn't really expect anymore to be in the Grand Prix, even though the horse jumped very good. And then I got to jump. I got in. Just Sunday morning, they called me and said, listen, somebody dropped out. You can jump. So I was okay. So obviously I was first to go. And then I walked the course, and I saw immediately that this Aachen, even though I jumped 7 or 8 times the Grand Prix of Aachen before, was different. It was really, really big that time. Even though it's always big, but it looked more massive than usually. And I said, okay, you know what? Forget about the time allowed. I just gonna try to jump a clear round, and I jumped clear with 2 time faults, and everybody said, oh, first to go directly a clear round. We don't change the time. And then during the next 40 starters, it came out that the course was really tough. And at that moment, when I went out of the ring, I never thought that I'm going to win that Grand Prix with 2 time faults, but I did. So this result came a little bit, I was a bit the underdog at that day in this class with this horse. But the year later in Calgary, it was different because the people expected it. And yeah, how you know, the second round in Calgary is a
Massive.
different story. Yeah, is you
Nope.
can, that's a different one. Yeah, you
Yeah, I was
can.
trying to see if I can find the video from our
Yeah,
hand, but I believe I didn't get it. So nope.
yeah. Anyway, it's big, and it's something very, very different to the other shows. There is not the system is not like you want to have a nice jump off with 6 or 8 or 10 in the jump off. Basically, if you manage to jump that course, you win. And I was last to go, or second last to go, and I made it. That was also some really special moment for me. So those two Grand Prix, the biggest two Grand Prix in the world. If you win them in your career, you can relax a little bit more anyway.
Both of them you won with LB Common, right?
Yes,
Tell us a little
correct.
bit about him and the story behind it.
I got him to ride with the age middle of 8.
Okay.
He is owned by Mr. Liebherr, Hans Liebherr. Christina, the daughter, rode him. He is very, very special and a very smart horse, but he has a lot of character, and he knows if there is a man sitting on him who is strong, or if there is like Christina with about 45 or 50 kilos and not the last strength. He knows the difference, and so he starts to play around a little bit because he has a lot of power. And so thanks to Mr. Lieper, he gave, and also Christina, they gave me the chance to ride this horse. And after having a bit of a rough time in the beginning with him, I had to also show him a little bit who the boss is. And he he figured out I'm fearless, and then he was actually a little bit scared of me. And then at that moment, he had the respect I needed from him. He went and did everything for me, and that was actually the day he started to jump basically one clear round next to the other. The quality from this horse is absolutely outstanding. He's smart. He is extremely, extremely careful. He's an absolute top athlete with all the scope and is really cold in the brain, and he doesn't get nervous from the atmosphere or anything. He's a unbelievable horse. Unfortunately, we were a bit unlucky. He had many injuries through his careers. He probably have only jumped 10 Grand Prix in his life, proper 5-star Grand Prix. Maybe it was 20, but anyway, not many. And yeah, he won 2 of them, was clear in basically not all of them, but most of the Grand Prix clear. But unfortunately, we have here and there a little injury. Yeah, and that's probably the biggest issue we have with him.
All right. On the other side of the coin, what was the hardest moment of your career up until now?
The hardest moment was definitely the moment when I was qualified in the team, ready to go to London Olympics 2012. Before that, I was already 2 times reserve rider. 2010, I was reserve rider for the German team in, I can't remember where it was, in Kentucky, I think.
2000, I think so, yep.
Yeah, yeah, on Souvenir. 2011, I was reserve rider with Katoki somewhere else. And then 2012, I finally made it into a really, really strong team for Germany for the Olympics, and that was one of the dreams come true. I mean, to make it to the Olympics in Germany or for the German team is something very special. I made it, and basically 4 days before we had to go to the Olympics, I got all my equipment already. Everything was set. My horse got sick, and just had a quite a tough flu and also some problems with the kidneys. And he was sick, and I couldn't compete. And that was obviously sitting at home and watching the Olympics from the TV when you were basically you made the whole 6 months before the qualification and you made it, and then you're in the team, and then you basically can't go. That was tough for me.
Well, I can imagine. Speaking about the German team, it's quite impressive how many good riders you've got in Germany. It's insane. Why do you think you have so many good riders and so many good results?
It has. First, I think it's horses is tradition and kind of our culture.
Yep. Philip, I can't hear you. Something happened? I can't hear you. I'm not sure what's going on. Hold on. Guys, can you hear me? I will invite him to join me again and see what's going on.
Yeah,
Yep.
now? Yep,
I can hear you back. Yep, no problem.
Sorry, my car turned off.
That's all right. Well, you were explaining about the horse culture in German.
Yeah, I mean, basically in Germany, every second house has a little garden with a horse in the background, and some kids are riding around. So the culture behind the horse is different, and of course also our breeding. We would be without the breeders, we wouldn't be where we are. So I think if you just grown up with the horses and you come out of a horse family, which are basically most of the good German riders are, it's just so much easier and you have such an advantage compared to people coming from the city and haven't seen a horse before they're 18. So this is a big difference. And I think also, like I said, the breeding and our shows, and we have so many shows and young horse shows and national shows, and our base is so big. You know, we have so many national riders and national shows. I think this is just a strong part. But if you see right now, it's changed also. I mean, 20 years ago, we were basically the one country, the only one. If you see now what Holland and Belgium, they're really strong right now, also with their breeding, especially Belgium.
Yep.
Yeah, so it has changed a little bit. It's not, it's good. Competition is always good, but we have to also watch out that we come back and that they don't overlap us.
All right. I'm not sure if you know how to explain that, but I think it's an interesting question. How is the team selected? Who selects the team? What do you have to do to be on the German team for the championships?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's the chef they keep. In that case, Otto Becker is looking the last 6 to 12 months a little bit at the results. And to be in a team, you better have a lot of clear rounds in the 5-star Grand Prix in the Nations Cup. Otherwise, you can forget about it. And then you have obviously 1, 2, 3 shows where he really wants you special. Like let's say 1 or 2 Nations Cups, and obviously Aachen, maybe also the German Championships. But obviously all the other results you do you make your own plan, and all the other results are also counting a lot. But at Aachen, for sure, if you're bad in Aachen, it doesn't help. You will not be in the team. That's always been like this in Germany. I don't think it will change, even though the course and the ring and the grass in Aachen has not so much to do with most of the championship on sand. But this is just how it is in Germany. But you get, like, let's say 2 Nations Cup in Aachen, and there you better try to be good. And if you manage to be good and clear, and you jump probably a double clear in the Nations Cup in Aachen, and a double clear in La Baule or Rome, and a double clear in Aachen in the Grand Prix, then he picks you for the team, and he presents his picks to a team of 8 members. And basically they agree with that, and they wave you through, and then you are in.
Good. Well, talking about Otto Becker, he's watching you, so...
Is he? Oh, I hope I didn't say anything wrong. Hi, Otto. I'm in shape for next year.
Well, talking about shape, you had a bad fall last year on Aachen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What happened, and if you are okay right now? You just had it in shape, but...
Yeah, a year ago I couldn't sit in the car that long, or 10 months ago. Yeah, I was in the qualifier for the Grand Prix with Che Fantastica, and I rode her on a rubber Pelham, which was, to be fair, it's about 45 years old, the Pelham, I think. wasn't the newest equipment. But to actually, I went to the shop about when I started to use the bit. First time I used it in Hamburg, probably 8 weeks before Aachen, and I showed it to the tuck guy, and he said it's no problem because the plastic looked a little bit funny. It looked a little broken, nothing bad, but it looked just old. And I said, can it break? And he said, no, don't worry. There's a steel thing inside the bar in the middle, so it's no problem. Even though it looks a bit funny from the outside, don't worry. I said, okay, great. And he was right. There was a steel thing in the middle, but after 35 years of water, it started. At that time, they didn't really use stainless steel. They had normal steel, and it was just totally rusty.
Yep.
So, and that was the problem. So just a bit broke in the middle. It just snapped. I came from the combination. There was 6 strides, a little steady to an oxer, and after 2 or 3 strides, I felt, oh shit, something is going really wrong here. Yeah, you see it here.
No, it's you're going to turn around.
Oh yeah,
and then
I
it's a
turned around.
combination.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
sure if we'll be
far,
able to
everything.
see it.
The horse was jumping actually unbelievable, and now it's double, I think. And now I wanted to go back. And here, boom, it happened, and then it was a scary feeling.
Oh my God, yeah.
And now I know, okay, I had no control anymore, and Che Fantastica is probably the worst horse for something like this is happening, because she's really sensitive, and like to get on and off is not as easy, and she's a bit shy with other things, and once she get probably panic and she starts to run, I thought there's no way to get off anymore. So I said, okay, I made this jump more or less. Anyway, I'm still on, and now it's time before she gets really fast. Get off. And then I just had no stirrup, so I couldn't really get the leg behind. And then I didn't really want to go off the left because there was the wall, so I decided to jump to the right. And then I thought, oh, should I land on my legs? But then, you know, when you have that speed and you land on your legs, you break them easy. So I said, okay, I'm not so skinny anyway, so better land on my little fatty ass. That would be the safest. And I decided for that. It was okay in the beginning, but my ass was directly a little numb. I said, oh shit, okay. And I got a little white in my face, and I felt actually it was really painful. And yeah, I had a bone bruise or little fracture on my tailbone though, and yeah. It's actually I could walk, I could run, I wasn't lame. The only thing what was impossible was sitting and lying on it for about, and it actually takes much longer than you expect. Like I had problems sitting for about on a hard chair for about 10 months, 8 months. I still feel it. If I'm still in a restaurant and the chair is really hard, I'm gonna move up and down. So this has really it's a really painful thing. I don't wish it anybody. It's not a nice thing.
All right. Otto said that hopefully you'll be good for the next year, so he's quite excited, and
Okay.
that should be good. Talking about the horses you rode in your life, of course you have now Che Fantastica. That's a fantastic mare. You had LB Conwell, but you also rode a few stallions that were quite famous back then and are really good in the breeding now, like Katoki.
Yes.
What's the story behind Katoki, and how was him as a horse? Is that the one? Yep.
Yo, that's Katoki. He was a special one for me. It was basically my first horse I won. I started to win. One of my first horses where I won big 5-star Grand Prix. I won them. I don't know how many, but I won a couple of 5-star Grand Prix with him. And he was my first real one. He was extremely smart. I never had that in a horse, that you really have the feeling he knows his job inside out. Like he was totally quiet in the stable, but the moment you brought him for breeding into the breeding hall, he knew exactly did his job, and was going back to the stable. You could really have the feeling he could read and understand what you mean. His brain was unbelievable.
Have you ridden many offsprings out of him?
I have ridden many offsprings, and they're actually really good. I won with an offspring of him, also a 5-star Grand Prix last year. Her name was Katokia. She's now with Marionate in Mexico. That's also Katoki, and I must say she's also very similar to Katoki, also extremely smart. Little funny style in the front. They need a little bit room because they're a little long in front, but they are smart and they know how what their job is and how to do it. So I really like the offsprings of him.
Very good. Well, of course, you had a lot of other good horses in your career. Was there another special one like that really made the difference in your life?
Yeah, I mean the first horse I did next to Katoki was obviously Souvenir. I had her since she was 3 years old, self-bred by Madeleine Winter-Schulze, our longtime sponsor. And I got her all the way up from 4-year-old till winning a couple of 5-star Grand Prix. Oh yeah, you are well prepared, I see. She was a special mare, total different. Not the last scope, extremely careful. But hard like a lion. She was such a fighter. She jumped 5, 10, 15 centimeters higher in the ring than she was actually able to jump from her scope. So she was just a real fighter. At home, if you jumped her, you thought it's a nice 140, 145 horse. But as soon as you came into the ring, she was trying her hard. She was really special for me too. And I had her actually, that was basically probably the only horse I had through her whole career from the beginning till the end. She's retired and she's a broodmare now, back at the owner's Madeleine. Really thankful to her that I could ride her through the whole career. There was never the question to sell her. But she was a cool horse. Obviously, the one with the most quality next to Conval was Montebellini. He was outstanding. He was just really pretty. He was unbelievable natural talent, a great jumper. He was outstanding. He was the one who also, like I said, he qualified for London Olympics.
Yep.
Won a couple of 5-star Grand Prix. Was very good at the World Cup final. Also won a second qualification at the World Cup final. Ended up third or fourth in overall. Really cool horse. And the one I'm really happy to have nowadays, which is outstanding in my opinion, and this is the biggest hope for the moment I have for the Olympics next year. I hope Otto is still online. Is Assatir. She's a Diamant de Semely Papillon Rouge mare. She's something very special too. And right now she's my biggest hope for the Olympics next year.
Very good. You told that you said that you rode the mare since she was 3-year-old. What is the secret to build a horse from the young age up into big classes?
That's really there's so many good Grand Prix riders. In my opinion, if you're able to jump a 5-star Grand Prix, it doesn't make you a good rider. For me, a good rider is the ones who can also really produce a young horse and know how to do. Sometimes, we have seen it many times that we have quite famous riders at our barn or coming to train, and they have been already very good at some championship, and they're just not able because they also have never done it, maybe. But to ride young horses is different. If you ride a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old. Or you ride a 15-year-old Grand Prix horse. I mean, to jump Katoki in the Grand Prix of Aachen is much easier, or LB Conval, if he's in shape, is easier sometimes than bringing along a young horse. Totally different. And to be able to ride well a young horse is, I would say, harder than riding a Grand Prix horse, especially at home, because you can make so many mistakes and you have to always decide or find out what does the horse allow me to do, what does it need, what is its strengths, what do I have to work on. And it's so much more, especially now in those Corona times when there's no shows going on, to ride around all the horses is not so motivating. You know, they do everything and you ride them around, you keep them a bit fit, but it's quite boring. But to ride the 4, 5, and 6-year-olds, that's fun, because every day they give you a new challenge. Something you can work on, and it's very, very interesting in my opinion. I mean, even Ludger is riding a lot of 4 and 5-year-olds right now. He even showed them last weekend, and that's something what is fun, and in my opinion, really, really important. And in my opinion, a good rider is also able to bring the horse along the whole way.
Very good. What do you look for? What's the most important quality on a horse when you're looking to buy a horse for yourself?
Yeah, we are thinking about that every day, and my view have changed actually a lot. Because you see, you know, you go to a 5-star Grand Prix and then you look at the model from the horse, and then you look at the riding style, and you look at the way of their jumping, and then you think, how the heck is that possible that this horse can jump those jumps? And then you start, you know, you always have in your eye the German perfect model, long legs, nice to ride, the head is down, and all that bullshit. In the end, the only thing what counts is the brain. If they want to do it and they're careful, they figure out a way somehow to do it. And if they have a good brain, and they're positive, and obviously they need a bit of scope, but if they have that, and obviously the soundness is very important, even if they're not talented or have a really strange way to jump, if they jump clear as a young horse and they have a funny style or whatever, they figure out a way. But you can have those fantastic movers with a nice jump, with all the scope, having always 1 or 2 down. They're always looking for an excuse to not jump clear. And there's some horses, they just jump clear. And I think this is, in my opinion, that's what they need to do, jumping clear.
Very good. And on the other side of the coin, what do you believe is the most important quality on a rider, and what is your best quality as a rider?
For me, I think what is very important is that you understand what your horse needs, that you don't, you know, ride every horse the same, that you listen a little bit into the horse, what does it need right now, and how do I need to ride it. And also what is important to, sometimes for me, it's if a horse is not ready to beat one of the top riders in the 5-star Grand Prix, a really good rider understands that and rides for 2nd, 3rd, or 4th place, and just doing another clear round instead of trying and doing something the horse is not able to do. And I think that feeling, and those riders who can keep their horses for many, many, many years in the sport, those are the ones I'm looking up to. I think that's a quality what only the really good ones have, that they're having the horses basically for 7, 8, 9 years on the 5-star level. That's something what is very important, and that makes a good rider very good.
All right. Who is your inspiration in this sport up until now? Who are the riders that you look up to?
I tried to find something positive, obviously, because where I am, and also because he's been the greatest in history for sure, is Ludger. And I mean, if you see him every day, the moment you get in the stable, the moment you go out of the stable, and sitting on 4-year-old horses in his age on a Sunday in the rain, outside jumping some small jumps, and you think, what the heck? His motivation, his inspiration, and his horsemanship is just incredible. Probably everybody else in his age with his results would sit in the warm, look at the gold medals he won, and relax. But he's not like that. He works and works and try to understand and try to get better. And if I would have 10% of him in that way, I would be more than happy. He's just unbelievable. But obviously there's some other riders. Even like I think from every system and every rider you can learn something. I mean, look at Marcus Ening, look at Scott Brash, John Whittaker. There's so many. I try to understand a little bit. I respect every system, and I try to understand what is the positive things on those systems, and I try to pick up for many different riders a couple of things. Even they don't have to be superstars. Even if they're really good in what they're doing, everybody's doing something right and something wrong, and I'm trying to see what I can do better.
Very good. What was the best piece of advice you ever received in your career?
It
So
was
special name.
yeah, actually it was from Lutke. I had a bad show. I was eliminated on the water jump with 2 horses. I fall badly, and I wanted actually to win, and I had good chances to win, and I came home and I had nothing. And we stayed there Sunday night. That's also something what is just Lutke doing. He won the Grand Prix of Aach. He just won a Lamborghini for 250,000 euros. And I was at that time at a national show at some place, and he won that Grand Prix, and I was eliminated at the national show. And he told me to stay at the national show, which was about 8 hours away from Aach, where he won, to wait until he comes and he helps me to jump the water jump at 10 o'clock in the night. So I waited there and I waited there, and I was really frustrated. He came, helped me. Who else would do that after just winning a Grand Prix, a big 5-star Grand Prix? He helped me, and then on the way home, he texted me. I have to try to explain or to translate it. He said, if you fall, it's not a problem. You just have to make sure that you stand up again. Or falling is not a problem, just make sure you stand up again. And that's something really true. Everybody has ups and downs in his career, but if you keep on working and fighting, there's always tomorrow, and there's always a new chance.
Very good. Well, talking a little bit about the Olympics next year, of course, we all hope you're going to be on the team, but we are going to be experiencing two big changes in the sport for the next Olympics. One of them is, of course, the new rules for the Olympics with just the 3 riders and the individual going first. And I would, of course, want to know what you think about it. And the second one is that from January 1st on, we will have no more the hind boots, or we have the new hind boots regulations. So I want to know what you think about these two new things that's going to happen in the sport, and what's the future hold for us.
I think the decision with the 3 riders at the Olympics, and also the fact that you basically start with the individual, is not made by horse people, because it's just changing so much. And I mean, it's already, if you look at the last couple of Olympics, it's been such a tight thing. Everything could happen. If you have one more down per team, or just 1 point more, you go from bronze medal to 5th, or the other way from 5th to 2nd. It has changed so much. We don't need more have it even tighter than that. And everybody knows, who works with horses, that everything can happen. And with 3 riders, I think it's just too much, and too much pressure, and also for the horses, it's not good. And I think with the scratch result, it was a good thing. And I don't think we need to have more flags. Even the FEI wants that, and understand the point. But I don't see that 7 or 6 extra teams being able to jump the maximum 160 track at an Olympic competition, because I mean, if you run the 100 meters a bit slower, you don't hurt anything. But if you are bad, if you're not experienced enough and not a good enough rider, and having Olympic track is dangerous. So I think having more teams and more riders at the Olympics is not what we need. And the thing what will happen is they're gonna probably put it a bit lower and a bit softer, which is also wrong, because I think the Olympic Games should be extremely difficult, and should be bigger than any Grand Prix, and should be tougher than any Grand Prix, and it should be a really once every 4 years course. And that will be difficult to build with so many more riders and so many more flags. So I think the only chance what the course designer has to just lower the jumps a little bit, and I think that's not what the Olympics should be. It shouldn't be a speed class, and it shouldn't be 7 or 8 in the jump off. It should be, if you jump a clear round at the Olympic Games in the individual final, you should have a medal. That's my opinion.
Fantastic. And about the hind boots?
The hind boots, I'm fine with it, because the sport has changed and so much. And if you see the jump offs, in the last couple of years, they're going crazy, crazy fast, and the course designer has no idea what they should build anymore. We are on a maximum of 160, 165 jumps. The cups are getting flatter and flatter. The jump off gets faster and faster, and we're gonna get more and more clear rounds in the Grand Prix. Without the hind boots, it probably goes everything a little bit, slows down a little bit. The cup's gonna be a little deeper again. Probably the jump's gonna be a little lower again, and probably you need to ride a little bit better. And probably the riders who really ride well and have the horses even in the end of the course a little bit collected and have them in a nice shape, have an advance compared to the riders who have big hind boots and always trusting and knowing the hind is coming. So I think is for me the hind boot rule. Of course, I have also a couple of horses in the stable which are much better with hind boots. But with that decision to get rid of the hind boots, I'm totally fine with. I think it will also for the welfare of the horse to slow down a little bit everything. It's a good decision, and obviously if you do everything right with the hind boots, it's a little bit of a help. But you always have a couple of people who go extreme and they overdo it. And yeah, that's why we have to change the rule also, and that's how it is. But I'm staying totally behind that decision, what they did.
Very good. In my conversation with Marco the other day, Marco Kutscher, he said that he had rode a Kentucky for a couple of shows. And that one question that popped up on the question mark here, how does things happen in the stables? Do usually you keep with the horse for the whole career, or you guys swap a lot of the horses between you all?
Yeah, it depends. With the top 5-star Grand Prix horses, we are not swapping so much unless I have 5 and Christian Coco has none. Then obviously we swap. But the younger ones, for example, if Christian or Marco had like 4, 7 years old at the stable and I didn't have any, it doesn't make so much sense. He has too many to jump the youngster classes and I don't have enough. So then we swap around also sometimes from one show to the other, and the one is riding then a horse from somebody else. Our systems are quite similar. Hendrik van Eckermann, Coco, Kutscher, mine, Lutgers, now Owen McMahon also getting really strong in our team. We ride quite similar, so I think for the horses it's not a big problem who rides them in the end. They're all ridden in the same way. We see them in the training every day. We change around it quite a bit with the younger ones, but with the older ones, not so much. It was always fair. What is great on Lutke is also like to have so many riders. I mean, in good days, we were 4 riders in the top 30 in the world. To keep everybody happy, finding enough horses for the person, and also everybody feels like it's fair. It's not as easy, but Lutke always been extremely fair. If he had one extra, he gave them to us, or if a new horse came in and it was a good one, we knew always the one who has not enough will get that good one, and not some other rider will get 5. And so he was always extremely fair and stepped back himself to give us the chance to have some more horses. He was always great in that, and that's why Marco was there for 15 years, Henrik for 12. I'm there quite a while. Christian Coco was there already now for 8 years, so he's a great guy to work for.
Very good. Well, what is your favorite show?
Aachen.
Very good.
I think the same answer for every person in the world, or have you ever heard a different answer?
But what was the toughest course you ever jumped?
The toughest course I ever jumped is every year the second round in Calgary. It's between tough and not jumpable, something in the
That's
middle.
also 100% of the answer from everyone as well. Like everyone says favorite show is Aachen, and that the toughest course is in Spruce Meadows. It's just 100%. One question that I'm trying to get from everyone is, if you had the possibility to ride any horse from present or past, which horse would you have wanted to ride, or would you want to ride if it's from the present?
I'm really happy with the horses I'm having actually, but The
I don't know.
one I would like to,
Katina,
the one I
Milton,
would,
Japelu.
the one I would like to have right now is Alice from my
Um,
teammate Simone Blum. I think for the moment, okay, she had a baby break, Simone, but I think it's the best horse in the world, or it's been the best horse in the world the last 2 years. It has everything you want in a sport horse. Yeah, it's something very, very special. And in the past, I really liked ET. I don't know
ET.
why, but it was always cool horse. If you
Very
saw
good.
Hugo warming up, it was wow, was looking cool.
That's an interesting question. I've been making him it for a while. What is your warm up routine?
My warm-up routine,
Yeah.
I warm up. I'm not a nervous guy in the warm-up or loud or whatever. I almost never, ever, ever have a rap or a fence down on the warm-up. So I'm really like just trying to get the horse ready, warmed up. I take my time, do a lot of smaller jumps. I'm not jumping big at all in the warm-up. Uh, Easy. I'm easy going. I don't jump. I don't need any special jumps. I just jump a little bit what the people, the one before me, the one after me is jumping to make it less complicated. I'm easy going. I think the whole warm-up thing with two holes, bigger, a little skinnier, a little wider like this is a little overrated. If your horse is warmed up and knows his job, of course, if you have a bit of a horse which probably not super sharp and you sit once a little bit quiet on an oxer to make him awake is fine. But all those tactics on the warm-up and all those different systems and extreme from one to the other, I'm not a big fan of. Keep the horse on your side, warm it up, what the name says on the warm-up you should do. And yeah, if you teach your horse to be sensitive on the warm-up and react on just a little thing, for example, sit a bit quiet on the oxer, it helps as much as other people thinking they have to have two down before they go into the ring. I think this is just the way how you teach the horse. And yeah, keep it simple, I would say.
All right, fantastic. We're down to the two last questions. So one of them is, what is your advice for the young riders and people that want to become a professional as successful as yourself?
Work fucking hard. It doesn't. I'm sorry for that answer. Everything else would be wrong. It's a tough job. Work hard and try to understand your horses. Try to be with them. Listen a little bit into them, what they need. When do I need to be tough to them? When do I need to be soft to them? And I think what a lot of people who never made it thought, yeah, but I never had the horse in my career. I never had that one horse in my career. I'm 100% sure everybody had already a good or really good horse in his barn, but most of the people don't know they had a good horse. So I think you have to make them great. You don't have those. You have those freaks once in a lifetime, but there's many good horses you have to make. And if you do well and you bring them along as a young horse, well, you can make out of a good horse a very good horse. And don't look for superstars. Make the best out of the horses you have in your barn. And I think a lot of people are just traveling around to find the next superstar, and they should probably look a little bit more what they have in the barn and try to work with what they have.
Very good. And then that was supposed to be the last question, so very good answer. But I remember the one before, and that is, what is the importance of the flat work on a show jumping horse?
It's very important. Flat work doesn't mean like dressage, like you don't need to ride a Grand Prix or Piaf Passage. For me, flat work is that the horse is listen to you and is with you, and you can go forward, backward, and it follows you. It's gonna be on its own legs. You have a nice contact to it, and you are able to ride it through a tough course without disturbing it, and the horse listens to you. It can be the French system, it can be the American system, it can be the German system. It doesn't matter. dressage means for me that the horse is with you and understands the communication between you and the horse. That's all what dressage is.
Correct. Well, Philipp, thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for stopping your car for this interview.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much
very
for
much.
having
Thank you
me.
very much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very
And,
much.
well, I hope you drive safe. And
I will.
hope to see you soon on the shows again.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone that watching. We'll be back today at 8 p.m. here in Brazil for the Rodrigo Chaves Nunes, the Brazilian guy interview. Tomorrow afternoon, we have Felipe Amaral. And on Sunday, 3 p.m. here in Brazil, 8 o'clock Central European time, we'll talk with Jan Simmons. Okay? So see you all. Have a great day. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.